You can listen to Football for Kids completely ad-free by signing up on Patreon or on Apple Podcast subscription. You can also link Patreon to your podcast player via Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Without adverts, there is no show. This episode is brought to you by our partners at Everton FC. Do you want to go behind the scenes at Hill Dickinson Stadium and explore the club's brilliant new home on the banks of the River Mersey? Now you can. Everton Stadium tours give fans a chance to step inside the dressing room, see where the manager prepares the squad on match days, follow in the footsteps of their heroes, walk down the tunnel to the sound of Zed cars and emerge pitchside for some unforgettable photo opportunities, including the chance to sit in the manager's dugout. How cool is that? It's a brilliant day out for football fans, families and anyone who loves seeing what happens beyond the touchline. The tours are fully accessible and open to all ages too. If you fancy seeing Everton's new home up close, booking is online only at evertonfc.com/tours. Hello grown-ups. Are you already starting to think about the summer holidays and how to keep the kids busy? Yeah, I thought you might. Today's podcast is brought to you by Kellogg'S Football Camps, a brilliant solution for families looking to keep kids active, having fun and building confidence this summer. With camps for girls and boys aged 5 to 15, Kellogg's are offering over 39,000 free places at sessions hosted by over 70 pro football clubs across the UK. From Colchester to Cardiff, Glasgow to London. It's a great chance for kids to get out, to play football and make new friends over the summer break. To book a free place, just buy a promotional Kellogg's Football Camps pack and scan the QR code to choose a club near you. T's and C's apply, subject to availability. To the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees, and welcome to this very special Kellogg's Football Camp Super Week, and a very special World Cup Super Week as well. So far this week we've done a gigantic World Cup special. We've discovered the journey of Lionel Messi at the World Cup, Luka Modric, and now we're going to do exactly the same thing with Neymar Jr. Who would have thought Neymar would play in yet another World Cup tournament? There are some countries where football is sport. In Brazil, it's something else entirely. It is the thump of the ball against a dusty wall, the fizz and crackle of a television before kickoff, the fluttering yellow shirts, the drums, the songs, the hope. Brazil's national team have lifted the Men's World Cup trophy a record 5 times. Nobody has done it as many times as them. But for more than a decade, one player has carried an enormous share of expectation on his shoulders. Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. His World Cup story has included dazzling goals, crunching tackles, painful injuries and lots of them too. And now, one final chapter may still be waiting to be written. In the summer of 2014, the World Cup came rumbling into Brazil, like the biggest, loudest carnival on earth. You could hear the drums thudding through the streets. You could smell the sizzling food drifting through the warm air. Everywhere you looked, there were flags, footballs, and flashes of that famous yellow shirt and the legends who had worn it. But there was an old footballing ghost hiding in the background. The last time Brazil had hosted a Men's World Cup was in 1950, and in that World Cup, Uruguay beat them. That painful memory even lives today among the Brazilian people. At this time, 64 years later, Brazil had a new hero, Neymar Jr. He was only 22 years old. He'd recently left the Brazilian club Santos to join Barcelona in La Liga. The World Cup began in Sao Paulo with a noise turned all the way up to 11. Brazil faced Croatia. Yellow shirts bounced in the stands. The anthems roared around the stadium. Then, after only 11 minutes, the party music suddenly stopped, like somebody had turned the plug off at the wall. Marcelo, the Brazilian player, accidentally turned the ball into his own net. He scored an own goal. Croatia were ahead, and they hadn't even scored themselves. Neymar was booked after catching Luka Modric with a raised arm. Some felt that he was lucky to stay on the pitch. It could have gone terribly wrong in a very short period of time. But then came the magic. Neymar drilled a low shot in off the post. Clink, and it was a goal. After half-time, Brazil were awarded a fiercely debated penalty when Fred went down under a challenge. Neymar scored again before Oscar added a third. Brazil went on to win that game 3-1. A goalless draw with Mexico would follow. Then Neymar scored twice against Cameroon and Brazil won 4-1. 3 matches, 4 brilliant Neymar goals. The boy with an enormous backpack of expectation was carrying it rather well. Next came a game against Chile, and suddenly the sunshine disappeared behind the gigantic cloud of nerves. Inside that stadium that day, the noise was enormous. Every tackle seemed to thud louder than before. Every loose ball caught a gasp from the crowd. Every Brazilian heartbeat seemed to be drumming against the players' rib cages. After 120 minutes of exhausting football, it was 1-1. And right at the end of extra time, Chile smashed the ball when it hit the crossbar. The noise of it still wanders through the streets of Brazil today. The crowd were terrified just for a moment. The game would go on to penalties. The Brazilian goalkeeper saved 2 penalties. Then Neymar stepped forward. He paused, he stuttered in the way that he does, and he sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. Brazil led 3-2. Chile's final penalty was one which hit the post. Brazil survived, and an entire nation remembered how to breathe again. The quarter-finals would be Brazil against Colombia, led by the brilliant James Rodriguez. Early on, Neymar Jr swung in a curling corner and Thiago Silva bundled the ball into the back of the net. Then, David Luiz smashed home a magnificent free kick. Brazil were heading for the semi-finals. But near the end of the match, the mood changed entirely, and it changed unbelievably quickly. Neymar was challenged from behind and went crashing to the grass. The stadium noise vanished once again. Neymar screamed that he couldn't feel his legs. It turned out he'd fractured something in his lower back. His World Cup was over. Days later, and fighting back the tears in an interview, Neymar said that he felt blessed. Another 2 centimetres and his life could have been very, very different. Without Neymar, Brazil's World Cup dream began to creak, wobble, then collapse with an almighty crash. It would be Germany who would knock Brazil out of the World Cup, and did it in spectacular fashion. They ended up winning the game 7-1. It was one of the most astonishing nights in World Cup history. But 2 years later, Neymar returned and played in an Olympic final. The opponents were Germany, the team who crushed Brazil 7-1 on that famous World Cup night. The match finished 1-1 and went to penalties. Neymar stepped forward for the decisive kick. He scored. Brazil had won their first men's Olympic football gold medal. Neymar dropped to his knees in tears. The scar of 2014 had not vanished, but at last there was a golden memory which sat beside it. And that brings part 1 on the Neymar Jr at the World Cup story to an end. Join me in part 2 when we kick things off in Russia and look all the way ahead to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about the Football for Kids podcast. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.